Episode 9 opens on a television commercial for a Schnee Dust Company subsidiary company called Snowfield, a major food producer in Atlas that utilizes state-of-the-art technology to maximize crop yield and, allegedly, quality. It touts dozens of vertical farms and greenhouses, a fully automated workforce, and precision pest control, all of which goes towards producing as much as 40% of the food consumed in Atlas and Mantle. As we get clips of the sprawling towers, repurposed at Legion Knights called Green Thumbs, and employees studying crops in a lab, they're sporadically cut by static and replaced by new scenes. The robotic staff tearing crops out of the ground, smashing expensive equipment, breaking windows, and all around causing mayhem and havoc. By the end, we're left lingering on a camera shot of the ruins of one of the greenhouses. All of the green thumbs deactivated and scattered throughout the plant, the moon bright as snow begins to drift through the holes in the building. Punctuating this is the commercial's last line, asking, "What can green do for you?" The footage glitches, and a script in the bottom left corner says deleting footage, paired with the pixels of the screen bubbling with the effect signature to Watts' method of tracking down images. As the screen gets partway deleted, we fade in on the same scene and camera angle, though now it's day and it's clear we're no longer stuck from the perspective of security footage. The entire greenhouse is in shambles, and just about everything, green or otherwise, is buried in a layer of snow. Walking in the frame is CL, her visor over her eyes as she sweeps the scene. We get a shot from its perspective and the data it's feeding her, calculating things like specific impact points, temperature fluctuations, and the percentile of living biomass among the dying plants. She takes off her visor with a frown. This is worse than the initial reports said. Turning around, we find Penny, Flint, RWBY, and Weiss are all part of the investigation team, spreading out amongst the rows of crops. Weiss and Flint are the furthest back, inspecting an overseer's desk and the documents within. Penny is examining one of the green thumbs with a distinct look of concern, and RWBY is awkwardly trying to stay busy by sifting through one of the troughs of plants. Occasionally her eyes flicker over to Penny, and words try to make their way to her throat, but she falls short of saying anything, especially after CL sends her a pointed glare. Weiss scowls at some of the documents. You know, just because I am a Schnee doesn't mean I have meaningful insight on everything my family owns. CL walks past Penny and approaches the two. Your business acumen will be more than enough, Miss Schnee. Besides Weiss, Flint speaks up. Besides, that's why she has me here. Family used to run these farms. Weiss blinks. Oh, And Flint cuts her off. No apologies. We're square after the tournament. Weiss's face splits into a soft smile before one of the documents Flint is holding catches her eyes. Hey, look here. She, Flint, and CL lean in to better investigate the page. As they do, the camera pulls back to RWBY, still not really knowing what she's doing as she's sifting through the dirt. Sighing in defeat, she leans back to look at Penny again with a frown. Penny is still busy inspecting the robot, manually moving its limbs and joints, paying particular attention to the hands and knuckles. RWBY glances over at CL, Weiss, and Flint, all locked in deep conversation, before hesitantly sliding up beside Penny. What are you looking for? Penny stays focused on inspecting the robot, answering with little inflection. I am ascertaining the exact damages and their cause. My suspicions are not promising. RWBY looks around the room warily. And those are? Penny gingerly lets the robot's arms fall to its sides before standing fully. My current hypothesis is that these knights were the perpetrators of the damage. We are either looking at a form of internal sabotage from a company employee, or an external hack. It would be the simplest explanation for the damages in the missing security footage. RWBY frowns in concern. Like what happened to you? Back at Beacon? Penny's face becomes more pensive, and RWBY realizes she's put her foot in her mouth. She scrambles.
Oh, sorry, I didn't. Just forget I said anything, okay?
Penny shakes her head, her words forcibly cheery.
No, it is not a problem. Truly, much of that time is missing from my memory logs. I had to be informed of what happened to me after I was rebuilt.
Penny looks up into the robot's reflective screen of a face.
You needn't worry about my safety. My code is far more robust, but I am afraid that my siblings haven't received as much attention.
RWBY cocks her head to the side.
Your siblings?
Before the conversation can continue, CL's voice shouts over them. Rose! What did I say? RWBY scowls, turns, and folds her arms in CL's direction.
I was asking her some questions about the damages, or are we not even allowed to talk about the mission now?
CL blinks in disbelief at RWBY's indignance, while Weiss looks up with a frown. Penny jumps in to steer the conversation away from the brewing argument.
CL, initial findings indicate that our original supposition was correct.
CL presses a knuckle to her lips in thought, and Flint hangs his head with a scowl. Means we're gonna have to talk directly to the suits. Weiss scowls as well, thumbing through the papers.
It's gonna be pulling teeth with them. No company wants to acknowledge a loss this large, let alone my father.
RWBY looks around them at the destruction, and beyond the windows to the other facilities that seem equally damaged in the distance.
How much of a loss was this?
CL, having pulled out her scroll, replies.
Early estimates point to a cumulative loss of 2,500,000 tons of produce.
RWBY blinks at that number.
In people numbers?
CL and Penny both pause before answering almost completely in sync.
Around 25% of Atlas's yearly food consumption.
Blinking, RWBY looks between them, not sure how to respond. Flint whistles as he and Weiss make their way out of the busted open double doors to the facility, followed closely by the other three. That's enough to crater most companies, though more like a drop in the bucket for the SDC. Weiss stops in the doorway, arms crossed, the edge of Atlas's floating island visible only a couple hundred feet away from the facility. Please, we aren't that rich. In the background, as she says this, a massive airship begins to rise past Atlas's lip. The letters SDC are written in big, bold font vertically along the support strut. We cut between the other 4 huntsmen, watching it rise, and the ship itself on its ascent with Weiss in the background, each letter coming into view only when the camera cuts back to it. Weiss sags, sighs, and says, "Let's just go." This content and the rest of the content on Celtic Phoenix is brought to you by the wonderful people supporting the channel through Patreon. For just $1 or more, you can gain access to the Tundra Discord server, where you can interact with me and a whole host of my fellow internet colleagues, such as the other members of Team Frostbite and the Team Jacked podcast. Become a part of our regular bad fanfiction nights that happen every Friday night at 10 PM Eastern Standard Time by joining our chat and adding your commentary to the reading. You can also join by becoming a member of the Celtic Phoenix YouTube channel, with the additional bonus of gaining access to a bunch of sweet emoticons during every one of our streams, such as the Team Jacked podcast, which airs every Wednesday at 6 PM Eastern Standard Time. But if either of those are too much for you, you can always subscribe to the channel, enable alerts, like this video, and share it around to all your friends. Thank you all so much for watching, and we now return you to your regularly scheduled fixing. We cut to Schnee Dust Company corporate headquarters, a massive skyscraper in the heart of downtown Atlas. The crew approach the receptionist, who's busy handling a matter on the desk when Weiss says, "We're here to see Jacques Schnee." The receptionist gives a defeated sigh and begins to recite. "Mr. Schnee does not take unsolicited meat." She looks up and sees Weiss crossing her arms with a glare, and Weiss pulls out her scroll. "Check again. We're penciled in under Atlas security." We cut to the 5 in an elevator, being led by the clearly nervous secretary. They arrive at the appropriate floor, and the woman swipes her scroll to open the door. She lets them all out into the comfortably furnished hallway, fervently muttering apologies for inconveniencing them before swiping her card and taking the elevator back down. RWBY, Flint, and Penny wave the woman off, while CL and Weiss are busy approaching the doors to Jock's office. Stopping at the room's buzzer, Weiss composes herself, sucking in a breath with her eyes closed. Pushing the button, she waits for a response. Jock's voice comes through, clear and snappy.
"What?"
Weiss's mood sours instantly hearing his voice as she replies. "We're here?" His reply is quick.
"Oh, wonderful. Damaged goods here to talk about damaged goods. I cannot wait."
The speaker blips out, and there's an audible click from the double doors. Weiss stays still, staring daggers at the intercom, fist clenched tight. This doesn't go unnoticed by the rest of the crew, with most staring at her with concern, though CL seems far more piercing. She walks past Weiss, pushing Weiss's shoulder back towards the elevator. "Thank you for your assistance on this matter, Miss Schnee. However, I believe certain conflicts of interest make you unsuitable to attend this meeting. I believe the 4 of us can handle the discussions on our own." Weiss double takes at CL's blunt, emotionless statement.
What? Are you joking? I would never help him!
RWBY shuffles awkwardly off to the side.
Actually, I think it's more you might kill him. A little bit.
Weiss stares at RWBY, mouth open in shock, only to close it in a moment of self-reflection. You may have a point. Flint steps up beside CL with a confident smirk. Don't worry, Schnee. Weiss. I got the corpo speak handled. Exhaling her stress, Weiss shakes her head. Fine. Just don't believe a word he says. Oh, and word to the wise. It confuses him when people don't sit. He elevates his chairs. CL opens the door and Flint follows her, walking backwards to throw Weiss a wink. Got it. Penny follows after her, and Ruby lingers before giving her a quick hug. Weiss hugs back before Ruby joins the other three. The door clicks closed and Weiss looks around the hall. Approaching the elevator, Weiss swipes her scroll against its sensor, only to receive a rejection from the machine. Confused, she tries a few more times, getting rejected each time. Face scrunching with confusion, she wanders around to the other doors on this floor, scanning the scroll in all of them and being rejected by every single one. Even the hallway's bathroom, she discovers, to which she grouses, "Really? This has to be a fire code violation." It would be if it didn't unlock during a fire. Weiss spins around in surprise to find Whitley standing behind her, glaring at her. "Whitley? What are you doing here?" Whitley checks his nails before sarcastically casting his gaze around the hallway. "Sister, I work here. That is to say, I was working, until my security alert triggered because someone was using a revoked card over and over again. You do realize all you succeeded in doing was giving our security staff a meltdown, don't you?" Weiss matches his glare, actually mirroring his standoffish posture, eyes flickering poignantly to Jock's office behind Whitley. "What a shame. If only someone hadn't revoked my clearance, then that wouldn't have happened." Whitley rolls his eyes and turns his back to Weiss, walking back towards one of the other doors on the floor. "Oh, there you go, blaming everyone but yourself. Couldn't possibly be the consequences of going missing for months on end. We should ignore all the safety protocols we have in place. They don't do us any good. Should we make an exception just for you?" Weiss scowls and averts her gaze, not that he can see it. Gritting her teeth and clenching her fist, she swallows her pride. "I'm sorry. You're right. It is my fault." Whitley freezes, confusion written all over his face. He turns as Weiss continues. "I'll discuss this with him later. For now, can you help me get down to the lobby?" Whitley's brows warble, still baffled by Weiss's behavior, but he nods and walks towards the elevator. "Of course. We can't have unsanctioned guests wandering our offices." Weiss watches him after a moment before following. We cut to Whitley swiping his scroll and the two entering the elevator. Awkward silence abounds as the descent starts, the skyline of Atlas framing them both through the elevator's window. Eventually, Weiss tries to strike up a conversation. "How have you been?" Whitley's response is cold and sarcastic, keeping his eyes affixed to the doors. "Oh, absolutely wonderful. One of our subsidiaries going into crisis has been a delightful new experience." Irritation and anger flash across Weiss's face, but it melts quickly into disappointment. "I was genuinely asking." Like before, Whitley's brows scrunch, confused. "Since when do you genuinely care?" Weiss's dour face hardens somewhat. "Since I know what it's like. Being the heir is stressful. I thought you'd appreciate someone who could understand you." Whitley's face twists with contempt. "I doubt you could. Unlike you, I actually wanted to be heir." There's a ding and the doors open to the building's lobby. Whitley steps aside with a bitter flourish. "I'd offer to show you the rest of the way out, but we both know you're quite good at leaving." The words clearly hurt Weiss, her face dropping any sense of edge. Averting her gaze and mastering her composure, Weiss takes a decisive breath and walks out into the lobby. As Whitley presses the button to ascend, Weiss looks back at him. "Take care of yourself." Whitley barely acknowledges it with a grunt before the doors close, leaving Weiss alone with her reflection in the mirror-like sheen. John's voice cuts over the scene, maligning. "I can't believe we're stuck doing this." We find him, Nora, and Ren in the hallway leading to Roman and Neo's room. Ren and Nora each carrying covered trays of food as John leads them. Ren comments on John's lament. Yang has mentioned how restless the both of them have become. They may see pulling pranks as one of their few outlets. John hunches in disbelief. "Yeah, but what kind of pranks are they pulling to send people to therapy?" Nora chuckles, a bit awkward, a bit maniacal. "Oh, I can think of a few," which makes John blink in concern. They arrive at the door with the 4 guards, John giving a salute on behalf of himself and his team, and he pulls out his scroll. Entering a passcode, he gains access to the cameras inside Roman and Neo's main room, showing the two bored out of their minds with the TV on in the background. Nora looks over his shoulder and her eyes bug out in alarm. "There are cameras in there?" She begins to look around the hallway. "Are there cameras out here? Or in our room?" She begins checking herself over, muttering to herself at the end. "Or was I the camera all along?" John ignores Nora's shenanigans, but not Ren's following question. "You have access to them." Nodding, John flips through a few different feeds of different rooms and angles.
Everyone else might like them, but they're still criminals. I also don't want to get pranked either. Finished checking the feed, John knocks on the door before letting the guards open it for him. Delivery! Don't worry, we got you the best slop from the cafeteria. John enters the room but immediately slows to a stop, noticing Roman and Neo are not sitting where they were originally. Frowning, he walks over to the couch and waves his hand through the space where they were, finding nothing, not even one of Neo's illusions. Growing more concerned, he pulls out his scroll, and his face pulls tight in anger as he sees the camera feeds, still showing Roman and Neo bored out of their minds watching TV. Son of a bitch! John closes the tab, storms past Ren and Nora into the hallway, startling the guards, and begins to dial Ironwood and Ruby. We cut to Weiss, sitting patiently on the ledge of a park fountain outside of SDC headquarters, staring into the temperature-controlled water. She's distracted when CL, Ruby, Flint, and Penny all exit the building. Penny is her normal, cheery self, and Flint is as relaxed as he normally is, though his face hints at some mild frustration. Ruby, meanwhile, is slumped over with a vacant expression, contrasted nicely by CL's intense focus as she types away at her own scroll. Weiss approaches them, curious about the meeting. Ruby groans to the sky. We got nothing. CL looks up at Ruby, frowning. Nonsense. We learned the assigned employee movements for the last week, the major third-party shipments that may have had access to Snowfield's network, and the exact defensive protocols their network had in place. Ruby glares at CL. And how does any of that help us now? CL is silent, her typing pausing in tandem as an answer fails to manifest. Flint speaks up instead. We got nothing. Ruby throws her hands in the air. Exactly! Flint looks to Weiss sympathetically. Your old man's shrewd. I thought for sure he was like some of the fogies I've met, but he really has the bite. Even still, it was easy to tell he's pissed about this. Weiss is about to comment when, uncharacteristically, CL makes commentary while keeping focus on her scroll. At least he pretends to be polite. Couldn't say the same about that miniature version of him we ran into. Ruby perks up before slipping into a pout. Oh yeah, Weiss, I didn't know you had a little brother. Why didn't you tell me? Weiss pinches her forehead. Because he's an annoying brat. He and I don't exactly share many fond memories. Penny rocks on her heels. I thought he was quite pleasant. He was very eager to show us how to exit the building, despite how much CL insisted we knew where to go. CL's face reddens and she averts her gaze, jaw clenched in frustration. Flint grows a teasing grin, both he and Ruby holding back chuckles. Most polite shouting match I've ever seen. CL snaps at Flint's direction. I did not shout. I raised my volume. That is all. Which only prompts Ruby and Flint to start laughing. Ruby is still laughing when her scroll begins to ring. She pulls it out as she answers, only for her smile to drop when she hears the voice on the other side. Shock on her face, she asks, They're gone? Our last scene of the episode follows a pair of Atlesian guards walking off a train in the heart of Atlas's downtown district. They make their way across a few city blocks before taking a turn into an alley. The glass illusion around them shears away into ghostly shards, revealing Roman and Neo, stretching their limbs and relaxing into their more natural gaits. That could not have gone any better if I don't say so myself. With a playful smirk, he adds, Why, we can make a career out of it. Neo smiles, but it doesn't quite meet her rolling eyes. Roman's own smile softens and he rests a comforting hand on her back. Blondie won't hold it against you. Neo's eyes flick up to his, doubtful, and she signs, She might, but you're more important right now. Roman actually stops walking, face inscrutable, as it flickers between microscopic expressions of pride, affection, grief, guilt, regret, and a whole host of subtler emotions. Settling on a slight smile, Roman ruffles the hat on Neo's head and says, Well, it's your cue. Lead the way. Neo reaches up and carefully loops their hands together before they both set off down the alleyway. We fade to black and end the episode.